on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. From inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, we welcome you proudly here today for a very special episode of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Well, to be honest with you, they're all special. And that's because I have the opportunity to wake up every day and do what I love and love what I do. And that is something that I will always appreciate, always value, and always be thankful for. So I'm happy to be here with you. I'm happy I got my little Lily running around the studio. I'm happy that PJ's with us. And I'm happy that we get to once again embark into the sports world together. So, with that being said, Cafe Kubal with you on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, as well as 401 South Salina Street in Syracuse, inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital in downtown Syracuse, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse at their drive-through location, as well as on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York. You can go to any one of those locations, let them know that Wake Up Call sent you, and grab yourself my favorite, which is the chai, and you can fill it with whatever you want to fill it with. My chai has, I mixed two of them this time. I think I did vanilla and brown sugar. So you can mix all of their flavors, spices, different things that they have. Fantastic chais, teas, coffees, as well as all of those treats for you, the chocolate chip banana bread, all of their cookies, really everything that they have. And the upstate sandwich, my favorite one. I just got that when we were there this past Tuesday. So make sure you head out to Cafe Kubal today. You can also go online if you're like Papa Joe and you're out of state. You can go to cafekubal.com. That's KUBAL.com, and you can order something from them, including their coffees, and have them shipped right to you, so you can be pouring your own cup of Cafe Kubal this morning from wherever you're at, listening and watching this show. So, with that being stated, MaandPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. Papa Joe here with us in his normal Thursday post, every Thursday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. We're going to continue the conversation on the goings-on of Major League Baseball, and we are exactly 1 week away from the Jacksonville Jaguars' number one overall pick. And it's great to have a number one overall pick in the history of your team. It's great to have two. It's great to have two back-to-back, meaning that you have the opportunity to get two truly terrific players that can play right away. But the other side of that is you got to be really, really bad to get the number one pick, and you have to be downright horrible to get it 2 years in a row. So, we'll discuss the Jaguars and Major League Baseball. And then, as you can see, we have a picture of the dome here in MaandPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', because the Carrier Dome, which has been long since talked about not being the Carrier Dome anymore, that will effectively end on May 1st. Syracuse released an email to us in the media yesterday, and I will be reading through it with you, exactly letting you know what's going on. As effective May 1st, it will no longer be Carrier Corp that has the naming rights of the dome, and there's other changes that will be made to the venue for Syracuse University. We'll be talking about the changes to the dome and the fact that it won't be Carrier anymore as of May 1st, coming up here in hour number 2 of the broadcast around 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time, and we appreciate and welcome all of your thoughts as well. So, with that being said, let's bring in the man of the hour, none other than the incredible, the living legend, the go-so, grand old smooth one, PJ, the man that should have the naming rights of the dome or whatever he selects, Mr. Papa Joe. PJ, how are we doing today?
Yeah, that'd be good. The GOSO at the Carrier Dome, that would be really good.
So how are you? How's your morning?
Good. Hanging in there. I'd say I got my PT lady coming over in about an hour and a half or so, and she's going to beam me up again, helping my hip and getting my knee prepared for surgery. So I'm looking forward to the second surgery of my triumvirate, 3. So if I can get 2 done, and then I got the 1 more in the shoulder, and then maybe in 6 months I'll be somewhere near a normal person, except for all the titanium in me.
Yeah, well, and hopefully, everything will go well with physical therapy and, with surgery and everything else, coming up. Hopefully things will continue to go well for you, PJ, as you move forward. I know you look on the positive side of things, and I know that you and I have a lot to discuss this morning. The Jaguars are 1 week away from the draft, but before we go there, I want to go to Major League Baseball, and we are, a few weeks into the season here, where we've gotten to see some things and some teams, get to play their home series. The Mets finally got to get their home series in. There's different things that have gone on. So where would you like to start in Major League Baseball?
Well, there's at the end of 2 weeks, there's not really a lot of movement yet. Teams are still shaking down. Injuries, of course, with the short spring training that sort of hurt some of the teams. But if you look at the standings in the American League East, Toronto is leading the league, and there's 4 teams within 1 game. So that's pretty close. You go to the Central American League, Chicago White Sox are leading it, and there are 3 teams within 1 game. And when you get to the West, you got the Angels. My Angels finally playing some decent ball. There are 4 teams within 1.5 games. So there's a lot. Things are still shaking down. When you go to the National League, not as easy. But the Mets are 3.5 games over the Nats, and they're the ones that are really putting pedal to the metal early on. The Mets are playing good ball. They got good pitching. DeGrom hasn't pitched yet, and we're waiting to see him. They got a kid named McGill, who is, I think, 3-0 with a real microscopic ERA, so he's turned the thing. The Central Division of the National League, the Cardinals and Milwaukee. Milwaukee's a half a game behind the Cardinals. The rest of them are also Rams. These 2 teams figured to fight it out last year, and they're going to do it again this year. My Brewers are not playing near as well as they can. The hitting has not come around, but I'll get into that later. In the National League West, they got the LA Dodgers, who perennially are up there every year, with a bunch of Super Bowl players. But there's four teams within one game. So, there's really not a lot to talk about when it comes to the strength of these teams.
Yeah.
Except I will get into the strength of the teams just to keep the conversation going, because I saw some extraordinary last week, and I saw something even more extraordinary last night. And I will tell you about that as I go forward. I'm going to go through some power rankings that I used to do last year. I thought it was pretty amusing. And it's informational, but again, this is only after 2 weeks, and things are still moving around. Too many moving parts. What surprises me is there's so many injuries. Mike Trout is my favorite player. Is on the injured list again. Yeah. He got hit by a pitch in his hand. Yeah. Now he's out for a week, and last year he was out for a whole year. So I'm disappointed in that. But anyway, let me get to some baseball here. I got the Dodgers at number 1 again, as usual. And the reason that is because they have excellent pitching with Walker Buehler and Clayton Kershaw. Freddie Freeman came over from the Braves. He's knocking the hell out of the ball. They got so much talent with Mookie Blaylock, Justin Turner, Corey Bellinger. So many good players. But last week I saw Clayton Kershaw pitch 7 innings of no-hit ball, and he looked okay. He looked okay to me. Yeah. And as he was going to the dugout, he had a talk with Dave Roberts, the manager, and they pulled him. And I'm going freaking crazy. I said, how can you take one of the best players in baseball in the last 10 years? How can you take him out throwing a no-hitter? But they did. And Kershaw said, hey, I'm all right with that. I said, this is still a team game, and we still got to win the game. They did win the game. They didn't win it by much. I think it was 1-0 or 2-0 or something like that. But he's the kind of guy that can really just take over. If he's healthy by the end of the year, if he's still healthy, let me put it that way. He's another one that is on disabled list an awful lot. If he's still healthy by the end of the year, I think the Dodgers will probably creep in. I got the Toronto Blue Jays, and there's no doubt about the talent of this team when it comes to hitting. Pitching is a different story. But the best young player in baseball, Vladimir Guerrero, and probably the second young best player in baseball, Bo Bichette. These two guys are sons of former major leaguers, Hall of Famers, and they're taking their road show to Toronto. And Vladimir Guerrero was a very, very difficult out. He's sitting over 300. He's got 5 homers, 10 RBIs. He had 3 home runs against the Yankees in one game last week. So he can carry a team for a long time. But there's too many other good players, too many other good moving parts with the Blue Jays. They're a really, really good team. Surprise here for number 3 is the Mets. I told you earlier there's a kid named McGill is really throwing the ball really well. And they need him. They need someone to step up because the groom is not pitching yet.
Yeah.
And that really disturbs me because it's another situation where these kids either they don't take care of themselves over the winter, or they've stressed too much in spring training, and they can't do that. Look, this is a long season. I mean, it's almost 8 months, 162 games. It used to be 162 games, and these guys got to take care of themselves, and they're not doing that. And I question the groom and all his buddies over there. They need to get it together. Francisco Linder is the one that came from Cleveland, and he's leading the team in hitting, and he's about the only one that can. But it's a good team, and again, they will win by pitching. I got next to White Sox. This doesn't surprise me or anyone either, because last year I told you that they were the best in the Central because of the Hall of Fame manager Antonio La Russa. He's got some really good players over there. Although he has a couple of pitchers, Lance Lynn and Luciano, are on the shelf for a little bit. Nothing really strange. Tim Anderson is their best player. He plays shortstop, has a rifle for an arm, covers all the ground, a super ball player. The 5th I got is the Atlanta Braves, last year's World Series champions, and they don't look like the champions, but they're playing much, 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 much better. Dansby Swanson is the one that's going to carry him with a bat. Ronald Acuna is another one that's going to carry him. I'm not so sure about their pitching, but when you lose a player like Freddie Freeman, that's a lot of home runs and a lot of first base that he plays, and so he's carrying on in the Dodgers. But the Braves are still hanging in there, and they're a good team. I got number 6. I got Houston. Jordan Alvarez is coming back from a illness, and he's going to start hitting the ball real well. They lost a really good shortstop to free agency. Carlos Carrera went to the Minnesota Twins. So right there, the second base combination of little Jose Altuve and Carrera is no longer there. And Altuve's on the shelf now for a week, so it's not good. But one thing that I can tell you is that Justin Verlander, who had to take last year off because of another rotator cuff problem, he's coming back. He's 2-0. He struck out 15 guys in 2 games. He looks amazing in his late 30s. I'm not even sure if he's even 40 yet, but he's an unbelievable player, unbelievable pitcher. So I'm looking forward to that, seeing him come through a little bit more this year. I got my Brewers. I got to have them up there because they're good. They're good. And Brandon Woodruff and Corbin Burns are the 2 best starting pitchers in baseball, period. Better than Kershaw and Buehler. They have low ERAs. They strike out a lot of guys. Don't hit a lot of guys. Play good. They have good defense behind them. One thing that bothers me about the Brewers is that Christian Yelich is still not recovered. Out there still. He had a home run. He had a grand slam to win the game last week sometime. But he's not. He's barely hitting over the Mendoza line, which is 200, and he just doesn't seem comfortable at the plate. It's something I know. When he broke his kneecap, something happened with him because I don't think he rehabbed properly, or maybe they didn't do something right, or surgery or something. But I don't know. He doesn't look like himself, and he's an MVP of the National League. I mean, he doesn't look comfortable. So I'm still pulling for him. I got the Yankees next. They're gonna win, despite what Garrett Cole is doing. Garrett Cole is up to a terrible start. I think he's 0-2, and his DRA is up over 6 or something like that. But they score a lot of runs, and they're going to have to do that too to stay with Toronto if they even do that. I got Tampa Bay next. Every year, Tampa Bay continues to play well. Kevin Cash does a great job as a manager. totally he's underappreciated throughout the league. He's going to get his payday one day, probably at the end of this year. He'll wind up going somewhere making $4 or $5 million a year. But they have a nondescript team of also Rams, but they have a real good pitcher in Tyler Glasgow. I hope he's coming back after a 60-day stint DL. I got number 10. I got the Giants. Again, Brandon Belt, Brandon Crawford are going to lead the team pitching or hitting. Their pitching is so-so. They don't have. They're playing good ball to be where they are, and that means they got to be within shouting distance of Los Angeles. Those two teams are going to battle it out again, and I look for San Francisco probably put a little pressure on Los Angeles when they start playing the home series. I like that kind of baseball. And I'm going to jump right to one of my favorite teams, which is, the Angels.
Yeah.
Mike Trout, I said, has got hurt again. He got hit on the hand. X-rays came back negative, and MRI was negative. He's all right. He just got to get back in the lineup. And he's not hitting. He wasn't hitting before he got hit. Anthony Rendon is not hitting. But I got to tell you something last night. Yeah. I'm flipping through my channels on the MLB, which Mary graciously got me again this year, Daniel. And I'm watching every game I possibly can, trying to at least. So I turn on the Angels and the Astros. And I see the Angels come up the first inning, and Ohtani just a beast at the plate. He got a double, then scored a run, and he scored 3 runs in the first inning. But to my amazement, in the bottom of the inning, who comes out to pitch but Ohtani? Now, I'm telling you, and our listeners out there, listen, you got to see this kid play. I don't know how you're going to do it, but you got to see this kid play. He pitched 5 innings of perfect baseball. No runs, no hits, no errors, no walks. He struck out 12 in 5 innings. Yeah. And I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm going crazy with MTs. He's bouncing all over the place too. He come out to the 6th inning. Guy got a hit off him, gave up a walk, but he got out of the inning. So he winds up pitching a 6-0 win, 6 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 12 strikeouts, and he was absolutely unhittable, Daniel. I haven't seen, since the days of Kershaw when he was young, I haven't seen anyone throw the ball like this kid. This kid throws 5 pitches for strikes. He's got a fastball, he's got a slider, he's got a curve, he's got what I call a drop ball, but it's a split-finger fastball, and he's got a changeup. Nothing he threw was out of the strike zone. After 4 innings, he had something like 60 pitches and 43 were strikes. And Houston's got a good team. I tell you, they were the World Series champs a couple years back, even though they don't have Altuve yet. Couldn't hit the guy. Couldn't hit him with a baseball. Couldn't hit him with an oar. He was unhittable. He was filthy. He was nasty. Whatever. And I turned it off after 6 innings because Joe Madden took him out of the game, which is a smart thing to do. It's a long season. Ohtani's probably going to make, maybe 15 starts, 15, 16 starts like he did last year. But he was nasty, and I was pleased that I got a chance to see it. This is what I've been harping about with Major League Baseball. They don't reach enough of the markets throughout the country. Now, no one on the East Coast is going to see this unless you stay up at 9 o'clock or 9:30 at night, 10 o'clock, and turn on the baseball and you can see a late game. But no one on the East Coast, I guarantee you, saw this kid throw the ball. And I was he was 2 for 4, drove in a couple runs, and pitches a 6-inning, 1-hitter, and strikes out 12. Daniel, I was flabbergasted, and I love it. I love it. So, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, there's still a lot of movement out there, and there's no trades or anything. There's some disabled lists that are piling up a little bit, but nothing I've told you about is unexpected.
Yeah, and like you said, Shohei Ohtani, that you got to stay up to watch him play because he's on the West Coast, and that there's some people here that'll do that, that'll buy the MLB ticket and whatnot, and like they'll stay up and watch. But I mean, it's really incredible, and I do want to. You made mention of Freddie Freeman. I want to shout him out here now. In Monday night's game, Easter Monday, just a few days ago, between the Dodgers and the Braves, it was Freddie Freeman's first game against the Braves. Now, the reigning World Series champions traded for first baseman Matt Olson in March, signaling the end of Freddie Freeman's 12 years with the Atlanta Braves. And now, his response was to homer in his first at-bat against his old team. 12 years with the Braves, a World Series. They let him go after 12 years, and he slices a homer on you on his first opportunity to go up against his old team. That is called sweet victory.
I saw that game, and that was fun to watch. But, Matt Olson is no stiff. Matt Olson's a hell of a player, played for Oakland for many years, and he's taken over first base and actually leading the team in hitting. So they don't lose a lot with Olson. I think he's a little bit younger than Freeman, but it doesn't matter. Both of these guys are quality players, and Freddie Freeman is going to carry Los Angeles probably to another district title and see if they can get in the World Series again. But there's a lot of action going on. Love it. I love it, Daniel.
Yeah, there's some other pieces of this too. I want to get to some of the points from our longtime viewer and listener. Much appreciation. Watched and listened to us when he was in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So even on vacation, he has stayed devout to Wake Up Call, and I want to thank Greg for that. Greg said, I realize we're only 2 weeks into the season, but my Mets have shown they're a very good team, both pitching and offensively. There's a different aura around the team this year. And then he went on to say San Francisco pitching is very good once again this year, both starting arms and in the pen. So what are your thoughts to maybe go a little bit further, PJ, on the Mets and on the Giants this year?
Well, the Giants I like because of the Brandon Bell and Brandon Crawford have been there for years, and they were part of the 3 World Series that they won back in 8 years ago. The Mets, and I'm lukewarm on the Mets. I'd like to see him hit a little bit better, but Francisco Linder's a hell of a player, but I don't think that he's going to be. I don't think he's going to be able to carry the team by himself. My big problem with the Mets is that even though they're doing a good job early, they have not had the groom yet, and this McGill looks like he's, if I can say, McGroom-esque. This kid's tough too. I don't think he's given up a run yet. They're fun to watch too. I like Pete Alfonso, of course. My Gator goes up there and hits home runs for them. There's another part of baseball that I forgot to mention with my Brewers. Josh Hader, as you know, you followed me over the years. That if you ever had a chance to face him in a batter's box, you'd crap your beanies. Let me tell you, he is absolutely frightening, and he has not given up an earned run yet. He got 6 saves and 5 saves or something like that in the first 12 games or something like that. He's given up a couple hits. He's not given up a run yet. Struck out on 1 million people, but he is frightening to watch. And frankly, the Brewers, if they can start hitting a little bit better with Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff and Josh Hader, they're going to go a long way. But it's still the Cardinals and the Brewers in that West division. The Mets I like, but I'm lukewarm on them. Detroit, I don't have anything to say good about Detroit yet. They're not. You got Cabrera up there, who's going to be a Hall of Famer one day, but he's just not. He's not playing up to snuff. Maybe, I don't know. Javier Baez was on the injured list over the weekend. Yeah, he's got a problem with his thumb, so I guess he can't grip the bat. Notwithstanding Cabrera, isn't there really not a lot to say about the Tigers? I don't think they're playing 500 ball yet. So it's something that you got to follow. I follow it on a weekly basis, not on a nightly basis, because I drive Mary crazy with it. So, but, there's other teams to talk about, but we don't even get to your Diamondbacks. I saw your Diamondbacks play the other day, and they didn't look that bad. As a matter of fact, I sent you a text. They were winning, but then they lost in epic innings, in 10 innings or something like that. They just don't have any players. I mean, this kid named Seth Veer is the only ex-Arizona hitter with a batting average above 212. Mm-hmm. Daniel, that means half of the team is batting under the Mendoza line. Now, you can't win any games like that. They've won 3 games so far, but, not going to be it. Not going to do it. They're batting 133 with an on-base percentage of 272, and that's just not going to get it. Not going to get it. But you're not the worst team in baseball. The Orioles is going to take that this year. The Orioles are going to come worse than the Diamondbacks, Daniel. You heard it here.
Well, I have something to say that has to do with the Diamondbacks and some very interesting news that was very strange. And we're going to talk about it right after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. Stay with us, because the news just keeps getting a little bit more interesting, and somehow it ended in a Diamondbacks victory. We'll talk about it right after this. Inside the Cafe Kubal studios, this is Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and you are amazing.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. We are inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital in downtown Syracuse. We thank you for all that you're doing. May your hands be guided by God to help us find those miracles we need for our kids and for our families. I pray that for you all today and always. So thank you to Golisano's Children's Hospital. Like I said, you can find Cafe Kubal in there, and you can find some heroes in there, I hope, as well. 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York. You can also find Cafe Cubal in their double-decker brown behemoth of a giant brown striped building. It looks like coffee being poured. It's like the welcome center to Manlius is what I call it, because it's right when you come in on where all the roads converge in Manlius. And, of course, on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in their drive-thru location. So make sure you fill your cup up with some Cafe Cubal today. With that being said, Papa Joe and I continue our discussion. And I said we'll be talking baseball as we came out of that fast break here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and a very interesting story that involves my Diamondbacks. Well, the U.S. Capitol yesterday evening was briefly evacuated on Wednesday evening after police identified an aircraft that they said posed a, quote, probable threat. But the plane was actually carrying members of the U.S. Army Golden Knights, who parachuted into the Washington Nationals baseball stadium for a pregame demonstration. The Nationals were playing host to the Diamondbacks at Nationals Park, which is a little more than a mile away from the U.S. Capitol. The alert from the U.S. Capitol Police sent congressional staffers fleeing from the Capitol and legislative buildings around 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So, one witness to all the chaos was Mrs. Dolan, the wife of Nationals pitcher Sean Doolittle. So she said, quote, I was walking the dogs past the Dirksen Senate office. People started screaming out all at once. They told me to turn around and get away as fast as possible. Some people were calm, but many were genuinely panicked. I know I was, end quote. Investigators are still working on to determine why the event wasn't properly coordinated with law enforcement officials in Washington, D.C., which is what they told the Associated Press. Capital Region is defended by several surface-to-air missile sites, as well as military air crews on around-the-clock alert. It did not appear that any of those systems were scrambled. Officials believe, based on a preliminary review, what they told the AP is the pilot might not have properly reported taking off or had appropriate clearance. The Federal Aviation Administration, aka the FAA, said Thursday, today, that it's reviewing the apparent communications breakdown with a, quote, thorough and expeditious review. They went on to say, quote, that the FAA said it, quote, takes its role in protecting the national airspace seriously and will conduct a thorough and expeditious review of the events this evening and share updates. Now, they went on to say that the agency said it knows its actions affect others, quote, especially in our nation's capital region, and we must communicate early and often with our law enforcement partners, end quote. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi blamed the FAA in a statement Wednesday night, saying, quote, its apparent failure to notify Capitol Police of the pre-planned flyover National Stadium is outrageous and inexcusable. She went on to say Congress looks forward to reviewing the results of a thorough after-action review that determines what precisely went wrong today and who at the Federal Aviation Administration will be held accountable for this outrageous and frightening mistake, end quote. So Kelly Legaspi, a spokeswoman from the U.S. Army Recruiting Command, which is behind the demonstration, said, quote, we are reviewing all aspects of the event to ensure all procedures were followed appropriately to coordinate both the flight and the parachute demonstration, end quote. Now, it's a twin-engine plane. It left Joint Base Andrews in Maryland and had been circling inside heavily restricted airspace close to the Capitol when the alert was sent. Radar tracking data shows the plane remain clear of the prohibited airspace over the Capitol building and other government complexes at all times. Air traffic control recordings capture the Army plane coordinating its flight with its control tower at nearby Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. It landed back at Andrews around 6:50 p.m. Eastern Time after the parachutist descended into the middle of the field at Nationals Park. I have a lot of thoughts on this. Number one, Miss Pelosi, and whoever wants to comment on this, you have bigger problems than figuring out why this Army plane was parachuting during a demonstration. Number two, you know you have a baseball team, right? And you know they do demonstrations, right? And you know they do them before the games, right? So shouldn't you be held accountable for being an idiot? And on top of all of this, they stayed out of prohibited airspace. I mean, this to me is such... And you know what? Above all things, you know what it reminds me? You know what it tells me? for like the third time in the last 5 years. Our nation's capital, nobody knows what's going on, and I don't feel protected at all. Hey, did you know that those parachutists were coming out? No. How about the guy a few years ago that ran? Everybody talks about the people that went into the White House last year. How about the guy that jumped the fence and ran up to the front door of the White House and knocked on the door before anybody knew that he was there? So all I want to tell you is Russia, China, North Korea, all of these places are watching us going, wow, you guys didn't coordinate this plane, this army plane. You didn't know that there was somebody in your airspace. You didn't coordinate and understand and talk to each other about this. Plus you were fleeing and running and frightened and didn't know what to do. We look totally unprepared, which is horrible to the rest of the world. On top of all of that, I find it hilarious that this is the topic of discussion today with Congress. And on top of that, no matter what anybody says, the Diamondbacks won 11-2. So, whatever that frenzy was, it helped out Arizona. So, thanks for that. Diamondbacks win 11-2. Your thoughts, PJ? Oh, we may have lost PJ here for a second. Can you hear us, Papa Joe? Oh, we may have lost him.
No, not yet, Danny.
Okay.
Hold on.
All right,
Hold on a minute.
yeah, we've lost PJ here for a sec. So I'll continue the discussion on this. But, I mean,
Here.
can you hear us?
Mary's messing with me.
Okay.
I just had to. All right, listen.
Yeah.
Mrs. Pelosi probably thinks there's a Republican up there flying that plane. That's what she probably thinks.
Probably.
And blame it on Republicans. I hate to talk politics when we're talking baseball, but but the politics in the capital city, they need to be discussed, but not on a baseball show. But you make some good points, and you're correct on everything. But then again, we're conservative people, so we can talk that way. Let the liberals talk some other time.
I mean, it's just crazy to me that this is it's like, we need, Nancy Pelosi's outraged. I'm like, listen, okay, poverty, still with everything going on with healthcare in New York State and all this stuff and Obamacare, healthcare is still not affordable. It still doesn't make sense. It still doesn't cover what we need it to cover. So that's a topic of conversation. Poverty is a topic of conversation. Inequality and racism is a topic of conversation. Equal pay, when we talk about equality, that's a topic of conversation. The global warming side of things is a topic of conversation. So, the fact that it was 70 in Syracuse and then it was 40 and then it snowed and now it's going to be 78 over the weekend, that could be a topic of conversation. But we didn't know that these people were testing the airspace for the Nationals game, and we're going to get to the bottom of this. Well, why don't you do something that actually concerns things that matter? But if you weren't prepared for somebody to be in your airspace, that tells me there's a lot of problems with you and not so many problems with the plane. And how did you not know that this was a military plane? That was another part of this. But I have a lot of questions, not a lot of answers, typical government talk. And I'm not somebody to talk politics because people get weird. But the reality of it all to me is this world needs a lot more help in a lot more areas than trying to find out why you didn't know, Miss Pelosi, that there was a plane that had parachuters from the Army that represents and protects your behind, that they were flying around Washington Nationals. I don't think you want to ruffle the feathers of the military, just my opinion. But, I'm also a proud grandson of two fantastic military personnel, as well as many great uncles who have been in the military. So from the Air Force to the Army to the Navy, I salute you and I appreciate you. And whatever this mishap was, it's ridiculous how crazy it got. But at the end of the day, PJ, the Diamondbacks won. So maybe it was a demonstration by the Diamondbacks and we just called it the military. Whatever it takes to win, PJ, right? Whatever it takes. So.
All right, and I'll bet Nancy Pelosi doesn't know who Juan Soto is either. The best player in Washington, who's probably going to carry the team again this year. I enjoyed watching him hit home run derby last year. I guarantee you she doesn't know who Juan Soto is. I don't know what the hell's the matter going up there. But anyway, Juan Soto, just to give you a little up to date on something.
Yeah.
He had a solo home run, a double, and 2 walks in Saturday at Pittsburgh, and has now reached base at least 4 times in 54 different games over the course of his young career. Which means he's got a good eye, Daniel. The most games reaching base safely 4+ times before age 24, Ted Williams and Mel Ott. Not too bad company there.
Yeah. No, not by any stretch of the imagination. So big shout out to the players and to the airspace people that nobody in Congress knows that are there. So with that being said, makes you feel really safe. Really, literally in the last 5 years, at least 3 things have happened at the U.S. Capitol or the White House that has made me go, yeah, I 100% don't feel safe about any of this. How can a guy run on the front lawn? How can these people? Whatever. So it's crazy. It doesn't make sense. But the Diamondbacks won, which I think is the icing on the cake of that story. And shout out to the military and the FAA. Hopefully you can get everything figured out, and hopefully an angry woman doesn't call you up today screaming her head off because Congress has spent the day to talk about you and not to talk about healthcare, or the fact that my taxes were insane this year. We need to discuss other things. So with that being said, we'll head to the number 1 overall pick. Let's talk about a guy whose taxes are probably high. Shad Khan, right? He makes a lot of dough. So Shad Khan, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, they still have the number 1 pick, and it looks like a week away from the draft. They're going to keep it, and they're going to use it. Well, PJ, I talked about it yesterday with Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com, my resident fantasy football co-host who's with me for years on Wednesdays here, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, also from the great state of Florida, bonding us to our second home, which is Florida, our first home here in the beautiful state of New York. And we thank all of the 50 states for listening into the broadcast and watching us, as well as those of you out of the country as well. And for those of you that are watching us in airspace right now, whether it's prohibited or not, thanks for watching us. So, with that being said, looking at the Jaguars, there's a few players that they may or may not be looking at here, Papa Joe, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, because when we look at the top players in the draft, the top draft prospects of 2022, a lot of people are saying, right, Aiden Hutchinson. And you and I talked about him last week, but there's other people that are saying, wait up a minute, the Jacksonville Jaguars should maybe go for Kayvon Thibodeau, the edge rusher out of Oregon, and some people still saying what I originally said, Evan Neal, the offensive tackle out of Alabama. I wanted to move him to guard and just make that be a big old juicy line in Jacksonville, but what are your thoughts on Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau, and have you heard anything or seen anything in the newspapers about Aiden Hutchinson or any of these gentlemen, as I know that obviously Jacksonville is trying to have some meetings and have some sit-down conversations?
I do have comments, Daniel, but I want to briefly say something. I know we have a lot of tumultuous affairs in this country, and our defense is down. The police are being chastised for even giving a ticket. As you know, I'm in physical therapy, and I will be for the next couple of months. And the young lady who's treating me I couldn't believe what she was talking about. She is Slovakian.
Yeah.
She came over here with her husband. She has 4 children here. She has family in the Ukraine that are trying to keep Putin the hell out of the way. And it seems like every weekend when she hears something, and she comes to me on Tuesday, we talk about what happens on the weekend. Remarkable stories that are coming out of the Ukraine that people don't even know what's happening, and it's scary. It's scary. I know she's not listening because she's not really a sports fan, but I adore her. I think she's exceptional, and for her to go through what she's doing, working, raising 4 kids, and going through her family's travails in Ukraine is heartwarming. But okay, I said that because I wanted to get that off my chest. I like Hutchinson still at number 1, and I don't think they need to give it away. Thibodeau is an extremely tantalizing player. I think he's probably as good, if not better than Hutchinson. Maybe a little quicker than Hutchinson. Hutchinson a little stronger, but Hutchinson, I think, is gonna anchor that defensive line for years to come if they can get him in here and get him healthy. There's nothing wrong with him, but when these guys sort of overdo it in training camp, but then they wind up with a bad hip or something, or they have a Charlie horse or a twist of the ankle or something, and then they wind up without playing for a while. I really like him a lot, and I don't think that the Jaguars should move from this position. However, to comment on your comments on the offensive line, most teams need more players on the offensive line, and you're correct in saying that they are interchangeable. The tackles can play the guards can play the tackles, the guards can play center, tackles can't play center, I don't think, but I liked it. I like that idea. And if that was the case, and Shad Neal and Pedersen and all these guys got together, if that's what they wanted to do, if they wanted to keep things fresh on the offensive line, remember you got Walker Litter, who's the number 1 pick last year from Stanford. He's sitting there ready to go. I think if they don't take Hutchinson, they're probably going to take Evan Neal, which is an offensive lineman, offensive tackle from Alabama. Yeah. And if you're coming from that program, you're going to be fundamentally sound. And I think that he would add to the Jaguars' offensive line for sure. Because I do want to see Walker Little play. I know he's a huge man. Maybe he's not as quick as some of the other guys, but he's a beast when he's that big. When you're 6'7" and 330 pounds, you can protect his Trevor's left side forever. So I like the idea of Hutchinson especially, but I won't give up the idea that Evan Neal could be number 1.
Yeah, and I think either one of them is a good move for Jacksonville. I'm leaning more on the side of Aiden Hutchinson right now in the moment because they went offense with their number 1 overall pick last time and got their quarterback, and now I feel like, you look at number 1 picks, right, from year to year, and a lot of people think it's got to be a quarterback, but last year it was Trevor Lawrence. This year, I think, you turn around and you make that a defensive end, and we've seen them get drafted number 1 overall, and some of them pay out and some of them don't. So I think ultimately having 2 number 1 picks back-to-back years, like I said, it's a great opportunity, but it also shows the state of your team is not a great place. And you got your golden boy on offense. Now you got to go and get your focal point on defense. And I think that Aiden Hutchinson can be this. And I think, Kayvon Thibodeau, we look at him, and we look at both of the stats here. So I want to look at both of these players here. So Aiden Hutchinson this past season had 14 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and he had 36 solo tackles. Take a look at this here. So now he didn't play, obviously in 2018 in his first season, he didn't play a ton. He played in 6 games. In 2020, he only played in a couple games, so those stats are going to be obviously lower. But in 2019 season, he had 68 tackles, 34 solo, 34 assisted, 6 passes defended, 4.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Then this past season, 62 total tackles, 36 solo, 3 passes defended, 14 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles again to equal what he did a couple of seasons ago. Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon, to take a look at his statistics, this is what he looks like. He had, in 2019, 35 total tackles, 24 solo. In 2020, 38 total tackles, 23 solo. This past season, 2021, 49 total tackles, 35 solo. He had 9 sacks in his first season, then 3, then 7. 1 forced fumble in 2019, none in 2020, 2 in 2021. And passes defended, 3-3-1 from 2019 to 2021, respectively. So his numbers aren't as high, his sacks aren't as high, and he has obviously done more in recent history, playing in more games than Aiden Hutchinson in 2020. But ultimately, his numbers don't show what Aiden has done when Aiden's on the field the majority of the time. So you take out the COVID year and you take out a freshman season, and Aiden Hutchinson's numbers are well higher than what we've seen from Thibodeau. And so, Thibodeau, you could say, is more consistent where he is, but Aiden has more of that big factor, right? 4.5 sacks in a season was his lowest of those 2 years where he played throughout the season. The lowest for Kayvon was 3, highest was 9, 14 for Aiden Hutchinson, and looking at 62 total tackles to 49, not too far off, but Aiden more of I think, in my opinion, between the two of them, I mean, this is why the statistics look better for Aiden when Aiden's out there, but here's my thing. It's what you see, right? It's what you see when these guys come out and they practice with you and they train with you and they come there and they do a workout. That's really what it comes down to. What can these guys do on the field? How quickly can they learn? So maybe Thibodeau comes to Jacksonville, maybe they run him through a bunch of things, and maybe he understands maybe he understands the information better, maybe he understands the playbook better, maybe he understands the play calling, maybe, he has done something to show them how he comes off the edge in one of the drills that they do. Once you get these guys in for individual workouts, which is why they're imperative, it showcases what somebody can do and what somebody may not be doing that they can do, but they need to practice at it, or something that you really just feel like, hey, they're not getting it, they're not going to be able to do this. So Aiden statistically gives you more of that, wow, 14 sacks, wow, he did this. But then Thibodeau gives you more of that, wow, he didn't go that high, but he had more consistency on the field, but that was Aiden's choice. So ultimately, when push comes to shove, I mean, I think you need to get a defensive end, you need to get an edge rusher with this number 1 overall pick if you don't go Evan Neal. And ultimately, I think if you don't go Evan Neal to shore up your offense, so I think if you bring him in, you got 5 offensive linemen now. And right now you have 4. But if you don't bring in a defensive end with the number 1 overall pick, then it's the difference between saying we have 4 out of 5 offensive linemen, and on the defensive side, if you don't bring a D lineman in, a defensive edge rusher there in the 1st overall pick, then you're essentially looking at a team that has nobody to be a threat. And I'm not trying to discredit or discount the players that they have, but I'm talking about somebody who is going to be a consistent threat in a push, a household name, someone who is going to put butts in the seats, right? Sell those tickets and make it happen right away. Jacksonville doesn't have that right now. I would be more okay with saying we have 4 out of 5 offensive linemen than saying we have 0 out of 3 down linemen there on the defensive side of the ball if they're going to stay in that set, because you have your hybrids, you have Caleb Chase and you have Josh Allen, but you need to have that fear that's right there on the defensive line. And right now they don't have it. So between Thibodeau and Hutchinson, they're going to have to figure it out with a week's time. But I am more leaning on the side of going there. I like the Evan Neal. I like that. I think it's safe. I think it's a good bet. I think it's a strong bet. I would still be okay if they made that bet. But like I said, it's the difference between saying we have most of our line on the offense shored up to we really don't have anything concrete on the defensive line. You bring in a number 1 overall pick like Thibodeau or Hutchinson, and maybe you can build around that a little bit better.
True, very true. I do want to get back to the offensive side of the ball a little bit, though. If I'm not mistaken, Jawan Taylor's still with Cam Robinson as the bookends there for the tackles.
Yeah.
And of course, with Walker Litter's going to take over sometime. Not going to be from Cam Robinson, because Cam Robinson is there as they signed him to the long-term deal there. Now, Taylor is an interesting prospect to me over the years, because I saw him play at Florida for many years, and he's a good tackle, great tackle in college, but he hasn't lit it up yet in Jacksonville. And I think that the powers to be maybe are looking at it and say, well, maybe we can release Taylor, bring in Walker Little. Walker Little and Cam Robinson as the bookends. Evan Neal learns and goes in spot duty every once in a while. And who knows, maybe you can trade Taylor for a 2nd or a third round pick. It's half a dozen one, half a dozen the other. But it's obvious that the Jaguars need defensive help. And it's obvious to me that the only 2 players are the ones we've discussed. And it's either, I don't think that Thibodeau goes ahead of Hutchinson. That's not going to happen. It's down to 2 players, and whichever the strengths of those two players are going to fit into the team, it's what Pedersen wants. If he wants another bookend, then he's going to get Evan Leo. If you need a defensive guy that's going to cause havoc, like a Joey Bosa, you're going to get Aiden Hudson. It's going to be interesting. I'm sure there's going to be more talk coming out, but there's very little coming out of Jacksonville. When I punch in my Jag News, I don't get anything. There's just nothing to talk about. So you talk about who they may draft. So let's hope that they do their due diligence and find the right person.
Yeah, and to paint a picture here even more so, if you're going to bring Evan Neal in to be one of your tackles, right, on the offensive side of the ball, and you're going to move him to right tackle, then they would have had to move Jawan Taylor by now, the player that's spent a little bit of time in the NFL after being drafted by the Jaguars out of your Florida Gators. Because Jawan Taylor has not been moved, I don't think that they're going to go Evan Neal, because that would be more of a telltale sign. And I do want to paint a picture of this, too, to even more so push why they need defensive help. There's 32 NFL franchises, correct? Well, the worst franchise last season in sacks, Atlanta. Then Philadelphia, then Detroit, then Kansas City, then Houston, then Jacksonville. Jacksonville was the 6th worst team in sacks gained out of 32 NFL franchises. There was 26 franchises better than Jacksonville in 17 regular season games for the sacks that they accumulated. Jacksonville had 32 sacks on the season. 32 sacks on the season, looking at this, and ultimately they had 7 interceptions on the season. Many teams had multiple. Many teams were double-digit in interceptions. They were also, so there was a couple teams, the New England Patriots had 23 interceptions, the Dallas Cowboys had 26. So just looking at this and saying to yourself, okay, we're looking at tackles, we're looking at different pieces of this. The Jacksonville Jaguars were not a strong team when it came to getting to the quarterback. And that is something that the best team in football, the Pittsburgh Steelers, 55. Then the Vikings, the Rams, the Bears, the Dolphins, the Niners, the Bucks, the Saints, the Browns, the Titans, the Bills, the Bengals, the Cardinals, the Cowboys all had 40 or more sacks. And then there's little old Jacksonville all the way down this chart here with 32. So you don't move Jawan Taylor, you don't trade him away, so that works against the Evan Neal conversation, plus the fact that you're in the bottom 6 in the NFL in sacks gained in a season coming off of last season, which further pushes that you need somebody to get to the quarterback. So I think statistically and by their non-moving of Jawan Taylor shows us their hand a little bit here, that they're probably going for an Aiden Hutchinson or a Kayvon Thibodeau.
That's true. Hutchinson is a safe choice. Just think T.J. Watt, Joey Bosa, those kind of players that are fast rushing ends that can cover the sweep and can get after the quarterback. It'll be interesting. I always like the first round of the NFL, and I watch it most of the time. I know that Jacksonville has number 32. Is it 33 or 33? First pick in the second round.
33.
So that's essentially another first rounder. So they have to do their due diligence to come up with another player. So if they want to go offensive lines, then with that pick, Evan Neal's not going to be there. So you just have to find another good football player. So Aiden Hutchinson's going to be the pick. I don't think that's going to surprise anyone, Daniel. I think I'm going to stay with that pick.
And the thing is, there's another one here, too. The conversation of Trayvon Walker going to Jacksonville. Now, this is an interesting conversation because Trayvon Walker, bringing him in and having him as an edge guy coming out of Georgia. Now, there's the thought of this being another piece of it, too, is that he could be the guy. And if we look at Trayvon Walker's numbers here, Trayvon Walker overall, as we take a look at his numbers coming off of a season where the Georgia Bulldogs took care of business and were able to hoist a trophy as the college football playoff champions of the 2020-2021 season. Trayvon Walker's numbers at DN for the Georgia Bulldogs were number 44, which is near and dear to my heart. Take a look at Trayvon Walker in 3 seasons. At 2019, sparingly right out. And so, really, Trayvon's numbers are not great either, right? 2019, 15 total tackles, 2.5 sacks, 1 fumble recovery. 2020, 13 total tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble. 2021, 37 total tackles, 19 of those solo, 18 assisted, 6 sacks, and 1 fumble recovery, and at least 1 pass defended in each of the seasons. So Trayvon Walker's numbers, so really, Aiden has that big swing upside, right? Kayvon, when you look at, well, I shouldn't say big swing, Aiden Hutchinson in the 2 seasons that we got to really see him, outside of being a freshman and outside of the COVID year, when we look at those 2 seasons, Aiden's numbers are above Kayvon Thibodeau, as I discussed. Kayvon Thibodeau can say, well, I have 3 seasons of some consistency, even though it's not as high as Aiden Hutchinson. Trayvon Walker's numbers are below Thibodeau's. So it would make sense to say that Aiden Hutchinson gets picked first, then Thibodeau, then Trayvon Walker. But now there's this conversation of Trayvon Walker going to the Jaguars with numbers that statistically don't stack up next to Aiden Hutchinson even a little bit. So I'm concerned about that. But at the same time, again, if Trayvon Walker comes in and works out and looks good and they like him, then, there's something to be said about that. So, PJ, if you were the GM of the Jaguars, if you were Trent Baalke, what would you lean on more? The film, looking at what a player has done over time, or when you get them in for an individual workout on your premises, what they do in the workout?
Frankly, I would call the college coach.
Yeah.
That's the position coach. That's who I would talk to. All of these guys are exceptional players. Walker could be available at number 33. I don't think so, but he could be available at 33. And the Jaguars may want to trade up to get him if it's in the mid-team. So that's to be thought about. I don't look at this anything other than Aiden Hutchinson. It's a safe pick. I don't think they're going to go anywhere. But I do have to tell you, I read a disturbing column yesterday about the Dallas Cowboys are trying to trade for Laviska Shenault. Now, Chenault's one of my favorite players. I mean, I've told you this from the get-go. They need to get him the ball more. Get him stretch the field with him. He's a beast. 6 foot, 225 pounds, can run like the wind and stronger than a linebacker. Now, nothing has come of that. I didn't read anything today or Google it or nothing. Nothing came of that. Now, I hope they're not in the business of trading away some of their good players again. I don't want to see that. Baalke needs to keep this kid, and Trevor needs to work with him a little bit more to get him confidence. He still needs a number 1 and number 2 receiver out there that he can trust. Shenault can play the slot. He can play wide. I can play a fullback if he has to. And the kid is that good. I want to see him get the ball more. Now, to answer your questions about where I would go, I still want to say to Aiden Hudson, it's a safe pick. Call up the coaches, call up the position coach, talk to his high school coach. Film is film, I mean, you could watch a film of Aiden Hutchinson playing against Rutgers, who was a terrible team. He winds up with 3 sacks or something like that when the guy is indefensible, and they have no tackles trying to guard him. So I don't look at that. To bring him in to work him out, interesting. If you work him out against Walker Little, because if you can get around Walker Little, then you can play football in the NFL.
Yeah, looking at the thing, and like you had mentioned here, the Laviska Shenault Jr. potential trade here would be awful, in my opinion, because the Jaguars don't yet know what they have in him. So to be looking to do. And that would, listen, you tried the D.D. Westbrook thing, it didn't work. You tried the DJ Chark Jr. thing, and he had struggle, holding on to the ball when he came in as a rookie out of LSU. And ultimately, I think he deserved a little bit more time, but ultimately that didn't work. So here we are with the, conversation that the Jaguars could move Laviska Shenault, another player that they drafted. He was a second-round pick. So, I don't see how this would make sense. He's a Colorado product. Now, he had 58 catches for 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. And then he had 63, catching 63 passes, but then less than 10 yards per reception after that. So, and he didn't get to the end zone once this past season. Now, they brought in Christian Kirk and paid him a ton of money. They brought in my guy, Zay Jones, who is still yet to show himself in the NFL. I don't think it's time to move Laviska Shenault. I think that, think about it like this. Alan Lazard was on the Jaguars practice squad. The guy was making nothing, right? Nothing to nothing to the NFL. They still get paid, but he's out there on the practice squad hoping to make a roster somewhere, or that if somebody gets injured, the Jaguars will need to call him up. He goes to Green Bay, and he becomes the second highest target by Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers talks about him publicly, directly, talking about Alan Lazard. And now without Devontae Adams, Lazard could be the number one guy. He can move to that role if he works his butt off and doesn't. Shout out to Lazard for wearing my Papa Cavino's lucky number 13. So I don't think Laviska Shenault should be traded. And the thing is, if you're going to trade him, what are you going to get? That's my question. If you're going to trade him, then you better get something good for him. You better get a need that you have. There's a bunch of wide receivers in this year's draft. So in my opinion, if you're going to trade Laviska Shenault, which I don't think Jacksonville should do, if you were to do that, for argument's sake, I wouldn't trade him for another receiver. You don't need to trade him for a quarterback. Now, you have 3 running backs right now. James Robinson, who we're hoping will be ready for camp. Travis, Etienne the third, hoping that he'll be ready for camp. And then you have Raquel Armstead, who they brought back onto the team from Temple. 2 of those 3 guys I covered in college with Etienne and Armstead. Then you have Christian Kirk, Marvin Jones. You got a bunch of guys there. I actually like the potential upside of this receiving core. Christian Kirk, Marvin Jones Jr., who did a great job last year. Laquan Treadwell, who they brought back, he did a good job as well. Laviska Shenault Jr., Zay Jones. You brought in Evan Engram. Dan Arnold's there if he can be healthy. We talked about the O-line. So if I'm Jacksonville and I'm going to trade Laviska Shenault, then I need you to give me a top safety, a top corner. They have good linebackers here. But if I'm trading, you need to give me a young, experienced, consistently good, game-changing D lineman or corner. If you don't give me that, you can go home. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. Very, very well said. And that's the way it should be. We leave it at that. I don't know where I read it. I read it somewhere. But it piqued my interest because I didn't think that Valky was leaning in that direction with a young player like Shenault. You got to give another year at least. Even midway through the year, they can release him if they have to. But he's too valuable. They just got to get him the ball. Just get him the ball.
Yeah. So, and the thing, it's like Trevor Lawrence. Your rookie season for a quarterback, they're supposed to make mistakes. Peyton Manning won 1 game. He threw a ton of interceptions. And so people want to knock on Trevor Lawrence. Please understand something. Even the best of the best had to translate to the NFL, and Peyton Manning struggled. And there's other guys that struggle. Ryan Leaf never caught on after being the number 2 overall pick. So, and then look at Carson Wentz, right? Hasn't been able to stay healthy. Look at Jared Goff, number 1 pick, and now Detroit's moving on from him, I would think, if I was Detroit. So when they traded Matt Stafford away and they brought in Jared Goff and a ton of picks, I said both teams won. How'd they win, Dan? Well, the Rams got a guy who can help them win a Super Bowl. What did he do? Help them win a Super Bowl. The Detroit Lions got a Jared Goff test for a season and a bunch of draft capital for the future. If it doesn't work out in year 1, he's done. What's happening now? It didn't work out in year one. He looks to be done, and they could be drafting Malik Willis. So, there's proof in the pudding here of seeing these moves. And Trevor Lawrence, you can't take away one of his weapons when he's still trying to find his legs under him. And by the way, he needs an offensive line to protect him. I would not be moving any of my my young pieces that I still don't know what I have. You didn't know what you had in Allen Lazard. You didn't understand that. The Leonard Fournette thing, that wasn't handled right, maybe by all parties, and look at what happened with that. So ultimately, the Jacksonville Jaguars need to understand that you can't afford to swing and miss in the draft, and I don't think you swung and missed with Laviska Shenault. Give him a little more time. Let him get comfortable with Trevor Lawrence, and let's see what happens. And you know what? Look at it like this. If you go out there and Christian Kirk is worth the money you paid him, which you paid him an ungodly amount of money, but if he's worth it, and Marvin Jones Jr. is worth it, and there's only 2 receivers on the Jacksonville Jaguars that have proven themselves in the current offense with Trevor Lawrence. That's Laquan Treadwell and Marvin Jones Jr. Everybody else is up for debate. If Laviska Shenault does not perform the way that they want him to, understand that 4 games into the season, sometime into the season, somebody's receiver is going to go down, unfortunately, and they're going to need assistance. The Jacksonville Jaguars, it behooves you to hold on to Laviska Shenault, let him play, see if he can get comfortable with Trevor Lawrence, see if they work together in the offseason. What did they do to get better? And if it works out, great for you. If it doesn't, somebody's going to need a receiver a few games into the season, and you're going to be able to trade for something you need into the season, or you'll be able to trade for future draft picks, hopefully in 2023. I think you keep him, you give him time, you let him showcase himself, and if it doesn't work out, then you're smart enough to get ahead of the game, and when a team or teams lose one of their receivers, you make a phone call and you make a move, but you don't make that phone call right now.
That's right, I agree.
So, with that being said, I want to get to one of Greg's points here, which is upsetting. Love you, Greg, but it's upsetting here. He said, where is it? The major plus of being a Jags fan, you don't have to stay up late for the first round of the draft. Nice, Greg. You know, and just for that, Greg, I hope the Jaguars take 27 minutes to make the number 1 overall pick. So, but because we know that the first round of the draft is longer than rounds 4 through 7 on Saturday. First round of the draft is like 4 hours long for 32 picks. So,
all right.
We'll see what happens here. He also said they could take your boy Sauce, my guy from Cincinnati, my cornerback, Ahmad Sauce Gardner. Yes, they could take him. I would be very okay with that, and I'd probably buy an immediate jersey for that one. So, with that being said, PJ, I appreciate you as always. Next week is the draft, and you and I will be on the clock Thursday morning next week.
It'll be fun. See you then.
All right, take care. That coming from Papa Joe here, where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Greg, I thought we were good, man. But that's cool, man. That's all right. It's okay. It's okay. I love you. You got a point. Like I said, and I already said it. I said, listen, I have my teams, but I am impartial as a broadcaster. It is a cardinal sin to be partial when you're broadcasting. When you're doing journalism, it is a cardinal sin to be partial, right? I can't say I'm from Syracuse, I'm pick Syracuse to win every game, because then my credibility goes out the window. I pick Syracuse to win the games I think they'll win, and I don't pick them to win the games that I don't think they'll win. So if I believe that they will as a broadcaster, as someone who's doing my research, I pick them. If I don't, then I don't pick them. I also trust my gut. Same thing with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I said it already this morning. I said I'm so ecstatic that my Jaguars, I know it's all love, Greg. I know that. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate the banter back and forth. It's fun. It's exciting, because I know that you're a respectable person, a respectful person. I know you're a kind person, and I know that you're somebody who has your opinion. We've agreed, we've disagreed, but we always have fun. And that's what I always ask my listeners, my viewers, my readers for 2 things. 2 things. Be respectful and justify your opinion, right? Don't personal attack me. Don't personal attack somebody else who's writing in and whatnot. Don't personally attack anybody. No name calling. Be respectful and justify your opinion. Don't say, Dan, I disagree with you because you're an idiot. Okay, Well, that's your opinion. It's also not respectful, and you didn't justify. How am I an idiot? By the way, I had a 3.93 in college. I had a 3.93 GPA out of 4.0 in my major. Would have had a 4.0, but I could not get. I don't think I got like a full on. I mean, did I get an A minus and not an A in my last class because I was out for a month because I had my tonsils out. So I wasn't able to do like 2 out of the 3 things we needed to do for the class. So, if you're going to know what you're talking about, know what you're talking about. I had a 3.82 overall GPA at Marywood University and a 3.93 in my major. So I'm not an idiot. I had a 98 out of 100 average at CBA in my junior year, and I believe a 97 my senior year. I'm not an idiot. And CBA gives you a great education. So justify your opinion, right? Back it up and be respectful. That's all I ask. And Greg, you've always done that, and I appreciate that. So, and I appreciate everybody who's done that, not just Greg, but everybody who's given their opinion, been respectful, justified their opinion. I commend you for that, and I applaud that. We don't have to agree, and I'll never forget when I was on the radio at 6:30, 1240 and 96.1 FM on ESPN Radio in Scranton, Pennsylvania, at the time Shamrock Communications building right down the road from Marywood University. I had a guy call the show, and he totally disagreed with me about Stephon Marbury's situation with the Knicks. We disagreed. We talked for, 10, 15 minutes. And at the end of it, we were laughing, saying we should get a drink sometime together. And he was literally on one side and I was on the other side. But we talked about it. I asked him his points. I asked him to respect mine. I gave my points. And then we ended up laughing about it at the end of it all. And hey, good conversation. Hey, great listening to you. I'll keep listening to the show. Hey, thank you, man. Appreciate it. That's how life should be. To go back to Congress, that's how Congress should be, right? We don't all agree, but we have to find a middle ground, and we have to be able to go get a drink afterwards, go get a sandwich afterwards. I don't always agree with my dad. I don't always agree with my mom. I don't always agree with my best friend. I don't always agree with my friends. I don't always agree with, the stranger on the corner. But we don't all have to agree, but we can learn something from each other. That's what people forget. When you disagree with somebody, you don't just... See, we live in a world where if you disagree with me, you're wrong. No, that's closed-mindedness. You're wrong for thinking that. When somebody disagrees with you, they may be totally out in left field. They may be totally wrong. They may, if someone's like saying, hey, I want to spread peanut butter all over my body and run naked through the square, that's wrong. That's probably wrong, right? But a lot of the conversations... I'm sorry for that visual. A lot of the conversations that we have, though, we can learn something from somebody's difference of an opinion. I've learned so much when somebody teaches me something I don't know. And when you close yourself off from other people's opinions and thoughts, you don't learn anything. And then you do become the idiot in the conversation because you're not educated. You don't know what you're talking about because you only know what you think. Right? If you grew up in a small town with 43 people and you only knew those 43 people and you never left that town and you only knew what they thought and what you guys believed, then as much as you know, a lot of that may be true and it may be correct and it may be right. But there's billions of people elsewhere that you haven't met and you haven't seen and you haven't experienced and you don't know, and they're going to be able to teach you something that you don't know within your small little tiny world. You got to open up to it. I have conversations, Ross and I have had conversations, Evan and I have had conversations. I'm Catholic, they're Jewish. I might be more conservative in certain places. They may be more liberal. I feel like I'm a balance of both. I want to be liberal with this, I want to be conservative with that. I don't think any side's completely right. I don't. You know what I mean? You think about it. If this is an extreme and this is an extreme, I was always taught that extremes aren't good, so you have to meet somewhere in the middle. The reality of the conversations that we've had sometimes is they've been really heated. They've been really real and genuine and awesome and true. And sometimes I teach them, sometimes they teach me, sometimes we teach each other, but we always walk away learning something, right? And that's important. It's vital to learn something. And like I said, to be impartial as a broadcaster, it's my duty to present to you the information, give you my opinion, but allow you to form your own. And to not tell you my opinion is a fact, but to tell you what the facts are that have formed my opinion, and then to let you make up your own mind. because you have every right to do that because you're a human being. And God didn't put my soul in your body. You have every right to be who you are. I always say, as long as you're not hurting anybody, trying to hurt anybody, or do bad things out there, do you. Be you. As long as you're not hurting anybody, go out and be you. So, in that sense, like I said, impartiality, the Jaguars, to me, they're in a lot of trouble. They're horrible. They've been horrible. And when you make it to an AFC championship game, but you can't get to the playoffs other than that point in a decade, it makes it look like, wow, y'all got it together, but you couldn't keep it together. It took you forever to get it together, then you got it together, then you lost it. Right? That's like people that say that they're in relationships with people. Why'd you stay with that guy for so long? Well, because when it was good, it was great, but when it was bad, it was awful. Okay, well, that's not a good relationship. You shouldn't have like that. I know that there's ebb and flow to relationships, and there's good days, and there's tough days, and there's trying times, but you shouldn't be like, wow, we're great. Wow, it's horrible. Wow, we're great. Wow, it's horrible. Wow, we're great. Wow, it's horrible. That's a fling. That's not important. That's not something that you marry. It's not something that you stay with. Jacksonville had the fling, but they've spent a lot of time in the dungeon, right? It's like being in a marriage where for 10 years you've threatened to divorce each other, but you had that one good year where you went on that one good trip and you had a really good time. That's it. They need to create consistency. I love that Jacksonville has the number one pick 2 years in a row, but the converse side to that is they're that bad. They're that bad that they got the number one pick 2 years in a row. Who else can boast of those things? The Browns? A team like the Lions could maybe fight for something like that. The Jets, who are always high in the draft. You don't want to be there, but if you are there, you got to do it right. And this is the irony of it. When you have the number one pick, when you have a high draft pick, it's great to be there, but it's your job to pick the right player so that you don't have to be there next year. Or to pick the right person that's going to get you there. There's nothing wrong with picking, and I want to make sure I'm clear about this. When I say you got to pick the right player, because of the irony of we want the number one pick, but now that we have the number one pick, you want to pick it right so that you don't end up back here next year, right? You don't end up back at the start, but that you're actually moving forward in the race. Picking Trevor Lawrence, I'm not saying that he was a wrong pick. Jacksonville was so bad that they needed more than one pick, right? They had 2 years of 2 first-round picks back-to-back years. 2 years of 2 second-round picks back-to-back years from all the trades. Yannick Ngakoue, Jalen Ramsey, and all that. So they got a bunch of love over the years for who they gave up. And you had to build. Jacksonville's problem is they haven't built right in the draft. That's why they keep ending up back here. But that's not me saying Trevor Lawrence, because I don't want anybody to misquote me, which I know people misquote people all the time. But that is the media, typically, not me. So the reality of it all to me is if you are the Jacksonville Jaguars and you have the number one pick, great moment for your fan base. But you got to swing and you got to hit a homer. You got to hit a homer. Heck, Jacksonville's got to they got to hit a single base hit. They got to hit a blooper over the second baseman and get to second. They got to have, I don't know, an in the park home run. Whatever they need to do to make it happen. Because if they don't, people are going to go watch the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp more than they're going to watch the Jaguars. And that's fine. Shout out to the Jumbo Shrimp. I just wanted to make a baseball connection to football because that's where I was. No disrespect to the Jumbo Shrimp. I have one of your shirts and I love shrimp. So, but really, in reality, Jacksonville getting the number one pick is great. But your job now is to do the right things with that number one pick so you don't end up back here next year. And where I need to be clear is it's not that they did the wrong thing with the Trevor Lawrence pick that they ended up back here. They did not have an offensive line that was healthy and consistent together. That was a problem. That affects Trevor Lawrence. Travis Etienne Jr. didn't play all year. That's another problem, right? You don't have a true backup running back throughout the 17 games of the season. That's another problem. Your receivers, you had some guys yes, some guys no. That was a problem. Your defensive side of the ball couldn't get to the quarterback. Like I said, 32 sacks, 27th best out of 32 teams. That is a problem. So you had all these problems. You have to figure those out, and you have to move forward. Jacksonville's trying to do that. They cannot miss on this swing for the number one overall pick. You got Trevor Lawrence. You got to do right by him. I think you have to go edge rusher, and you have to get someone, because you got your quarterback. Now you got to get the guy to go to get after the quarterback, right? You need to get that. You need the scariest person in the draft to be on your team in practice with Trevor Lawrence, not against Trevor Lawrence on any one of the other 31 NFL franchises. We'll take a step aside for a fast break here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. When we spin back around here on the show, we will be jumping into the conversation of the changes with the Carrier Dome. We got a message here from Syracuse University, and we will be sharing exactly what this email said about the future of the building that we all know, not just in Syracuse, but around the world, one of the most notable buildings that we have in sports, one of the greatest, in my opinion, sports venues ever. And I've been to a lot of venues, and I still have come back here over 18 plus years of broadcasting, sat in the Dome, and thought to myself this year, wow, we are spoiled. We're spoiled. We'll talk about the Dome right after this. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. As a patient, what do we want? To be cared for, to be listened to, and to have someone walk us through the process on our path to victory. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics does all of those things beautifully, with Dr. Mark Petropoli leading the team on 791 West Genesee Street in Skaneateles, New York, located minutes from beautiful Skaneateles Lake. Whatever your injury may be from head to toe, preventative care, rehab, physical therapy, laser therapy, and surgery are all available at Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, where they care about us, they listen to us, and they understand that everyone's path to victory is a little bit different. Let them help you on yours by calling 315-685-7544 to make your appointment today. That's 315-685-7544. And find out more information at victorysportsmedicine.com.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
This is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York, open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is worth the drive every time. Make sure you make your way out to the Millhouse Market today, and make sure you download their app on the Google Play or Apple App Store. You can get everything at your fingertips there with their indoor dining, their general store, and their drive-through window, all waiting for you at the Millhouse Market. Local products from local companies ingraining themselves in our community and in our taste buds. The Millhouse Market is absolutely, positively worth the drive every single time. With that being said, back here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. Very happy to be here with you, spending some time this morning on a Thursday morning, and it is time to get into our discussion on that giant building that everybody knows when they come into Syracuse, and even those that have never been to Syracuse, that is the Dome. Now, I love the Dome. I've loved the Dome for a very long time. I love the new look of the Dome. I love the fact that the rail on the outside makes the Dome look like it's a roller coaster. I really do love that. So we have some thoughts to be shared on the Dome today. Now, this is the information that's given by Syracuse University. So this is from Syracuse directly. For more than 40 years, the Carrier Dome has been synonymous with Syracuse University and Orange Athletics. Carrier's historic 1979 gift represented the first naming agreement for a major stadium in college sports, and one of the first in all of sports. More than 4 decades later, Carrier, whose support was instrumental in creating one of the most iconic and electric sports events and venues, has agreed to allow Syracuse to rename its stadium effective May 1st. John Wildhack, the director of athletics at Syracuse University, said, quote, "With Carrier's cooperation, we will seek to rename our stadium while we continue our work to transform the experience for our students, faculty, staff, fans, and Central New York community. Without Carrier's generosity and long-standing support, completion of the Carrier Dome would not have been possible, nor would the decades of iconic sports moments in Central New York, memories. We are eternally grateful for the tremendous impact Carrier has had on Orange athletics, the Syracuse University community, and the Orange fan base. So, now the identity of the stadium has been prognosticated, right? There's been some thoughts on what it would be, but as of right now, there is no clear defining name here that Syracuse has shared. So they have not said it's going to be named after one of the companies that was mentioned here. They have said they're still considering the future identity of the stadium, and they're still looking to enhance the stadium. Now, the enhancements on the dome will be a complete reseating of the dome, a new publicly accessible event facility, and an upgrade of the entire digital infrastructure. The university will begin work later this spring here in 2022, with some things scheduled to be completed as early as September of 2022. The university continues to work closely with the appropriate state and local agencies to ensure enhancements to the stadium align with and support the state and county's economic development priorities and processes. Quote, this is from Chancellor Kent Syverud. Syracuse University is proud of the important role the Dome plays in the Central New York community and grateful for its long-standing relationship with Carrier. The Dome has been an iconic sports and entertainment venue for more than 40 years. These new enhancements will generate new and additional economic activity in Central New York and continue the Dome's reputation as one of the top collegiate venues for generations to come. End quote. Now, the $118 million transformation of the Dome was funded entirely by the university and private philanthropy without state or federal funding. The upcoming renovations that I spoke about, those three things, reseating the entire venue. The university will transition all seating from bench to individual fixed seating. Finally, love that. This is something I was thinking about for a while. The new seating, a long-time request of area fans, will not only improve comfort, but will also enhance accessibility for patrons with disabilities. The Dome's existing bench-style seating will be salvaged and made freely available to high school stadiums and venues across New York State. Second thing, build an on-site and publicly accessible event facility. The university will design and construct a roughly 25,000 square foot addition on the east end of the Dome to infill the space between the Dome and the Barnes Center at the Arch. This new space will provide an improved fan experience, expanded event and gathering space, and upgraded accessibility. The addition will make the Dome more competitive with other peer venues across the United States. Third thing, upgrading the Dome's digital infrastructure. The university will elevate the fan experience in the Dome by establishing the most modern connectivity offerings for fans and other users of the Dome. Hey, does that mean that my internet will finally work when I'm trying to write a story in the Dome? That would be fantastical. If the internet could work in the Dome, yay. If the internet could work the entire time in the Dome, yay, yay. And if the internet could work on timeouts and halftime when everybody's on their phone, yay, 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 yay. So, the Dome is a year-round venue that hosts more than just sports. We know that. It welcomes more. The university stated that by their numbers, it welcomes more than 935,000 visitors each year, contributing more than $240 million in income to the Central New York economy and supports more than 5,000 local jobs. Once complete, the enhancements are projected to generate nearly $217 million in new travel and tourism spending across Central New York between 2022 and 2025. Now, Vice Chancellor for Strategic Initiatives and Innovation, J. Michael Haney, said, quote, Syracuse University and the Dome are central to the economic, cultural, and social well-being of Central New York. Combined with the university's $118 million transformation, the Dome will be poised to be the go-to destination for athletic, entertainment, academic, and other community events and activities. Accelerating this project will not only expedite these exciting enhancements, but also elevate and increase economic opportunity in Central New York. Pete Sala, Vice President and Chief Campus Facilities Officer, said that he and his team are looking forward to getting started on the next phase. He added that he received positive feedback from patrons on the work to date, who have expressed equal excitement for what's to come. Quote, we have the best fans and patrons who constantly go out of their way to share feedback, both positive and constructive. We love providing them with the best experience possible and are confident this new round of renovations will have a significant impact on the fan experience. We are eager to get started and more excited to get this work complete, end quote. To further cultivate a vibrant, prosperous, and economic thriving community, as part of the phase, Syracuse University is also doing these 5 things. Introducing a local apprenticeship program in partnership with trade unions to provide career skills training in the trades, including electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and fabrication. Provide cost-free use of the facility to law enforcement, firefighter, and disaster response training conducted by New York State or any local jurisdiction agency for a period of 10 years. Implement a procurement and construction process that prioritizes local and New York State underrepresented businesses at a level that meets or exceeds the state's own procurement goals. Ensure that events at the Dome remain affordable and accessible to members of our Central New York community. And make the bench seating removed from the Dome freely available to school districts throughout the state as an opportunity to reduce costs associated with ongoing or planning renovations of school facilities or stadiums. Those are the 5 things Syracuse is promising to do. The 3 parts of the upgrades will be reseating the entire venue, like I said, building an on-site and publicly accessible event facility, and upgrading the Dome's digital infrastructure, as well as renaming the Dome, which will lose the Carrier name as of May 1st of 2022, which today on April 21st, if we count today, then that means there are 10 days left, less than 2 weeks left, that it will be the Carrier Dome before it receives a new name. Interesting here on all these changes happening to the Dome and what that'll look like for the future of all of us here in Central and Upstate New York, and if it is really going to be, hopefully it's everything and more. The Dome first opened, had I think his first sporting event was December 1980. The Dome's opening back then, I was -5 years old, born in October of 1985. So the Dome has been a part of my entire life. My parents have brought me there since I was a little kid, and I've seen the upgrade of it. I would have loved to see Archibald Stadium. My dad got to go to Archibald, and I think he was there for like the last game or one of the last games they had at Archibald. But to look at the Dome, it's always been a part of my life. Now, Carrier was always here too, right? On Carrier Circle, which is why they call it Carrier Circle, there used to be the Carrier Dome facilities, or the Carrier facilities for the Carrier company. The irony of Carrier being an air conditioning company was that the Dome never had air conditioning. Now they do. See, here's the irony of it. Carrier got the naming rights, but you didn't have air conditioning. Now that Carrier's losing the naming rights, you recently put in air conditioning. Interesting. Makes no sense, but a fun little fact. Carrier Dome, no air conditioning. Not the Carrier Dome, air conditioning. So, well, still air conditioning while it was called Carrier, but part of the, upgrades and the transformation of it all. So, I definitely am excited about the future. I'm sad for Carrier. I hope that ultimately everything worked out okay for them and that they weren't forced into this. But, I hope that everything for Carrier works out, and I hope that everything works out as well for the Dome and for the workers, and for our community of Central and Upstate New York. I definitely am honored that the Dome has opened twice. It opened in December of 1980, and it opened in September of 2020. And when it opened in September of 2020, the only people allowed in the building were facility workers, the teams themselves, the visiting team, and Syracuse's teams, and then, of course, Syracuse University workers within the media and whatnot, so communication. So athletics, the communications department, and facility operators, plus the teams, the only people in there. Not a ton of people there. And then, of course, the media. And they only allowed about 20 to 30 of us to be in there. So I can proudly thank Syracuse University, Syracuse Athletics, and the Syracuse football and basketball programs for allowing me to be one of the 30 or less media that got to be at the reopening of the Dome. Because when the Dome reopened, it only opened to us. It was not open to fans during COVID. So, it was only open to Syracuse University workers, Syracuse teams, the teams that visited in, and then us in the media. And so to be one of the 20 to 30 people for football and basketball, which were the openings, I want to give a big thank you to Syracuse University for that, for allowing me the opportunity to be there and make history with my own company, which has been built here in Central and Upstate New York, and that being Dan Tortora Broadcast Media, to be one of the few people outside of Syracuse University connected people themselves, the people that are actually working there, to be outside of Syracuse University and be welcomed into the Dome at its second opening, its reopening, is truly an honor. I can say to my kids, my grandkids, my great-grandkids, the Dome opened twice in the history of Syracuse, and the second time it opened, I was there. And outside of Syracuse University workers, I was one of 20 people, one of 30 people. So, that definitely hits home. It means a lot to me. And I love the way the Dome looks now. I love how it's lit up at night. I love coming out and doing shows when it's lit up in blue or orange. And I'm partial to the orange. So, but it's just really been a great experience. The Dome looks great inside. I love the roof of the Dome. I love, how there's more digital connections there. I love the center mainframe of the video boards, and the acoustics are phenomenal. I mean, it's got to be great to watch a concert in there, graduation in there, any games in there. It's truly a phenomenal place. So I can't thank the Dome enough for what they've done. I can't thank Carrier enough for giving that $2.75 million back in 1979 so that this could even be possible in my hometown. And I don't know where we would be without you, Carrier. So thank you to you for that. And I'm excited about the Dome. I'm excited about the individual seating, which I think is a much needed thing. Sitting on the benches, it's not good for you to sit on a bench. And you have no back support, right? You're hurting your butt. Your butt usually falls asleep in the Dome. It either falls asleep or it freezes or both, because it is cold in there. It's not the safest thing to do, right? Like when you get up, you kind of feel like you're going to fall forward. There's nothing to hold on to. So, ultimately, I think for the safety of fans, especially as people get older and people with disabilities that need aid getting in there and whatnot, I think that, this will definitely be a vital portion of this. To see how they take out all the seating and put in new individual seating, and they want to get all this stuff done by the time of football season, I would imagine, when they talk about September 2022 with trying to get some of these pieces done, you got to get seating done by then. I would venture to say that, this has got to get started really quick, and they're going to have to get working on this and get it done here within these next few months, because we're going to be going into May. You got May, June, July, August, and then you got September, right? But you're going to be starting games, so really you have 4 months to do this. You have less than half a year, especially to get that seating in. So we'll see what they do with the Dome. I did read directly from the Syracuse University email that was sent out to us in the media. So I want to thank Sue Edson and everybody over in the Department of Athletics at Syracuse for sharing this information with us and getting it to us expeditiously so that we could share it and, put it like this morning on the show. So very much appreciate the fact that there are these upgrades happening, and I'm excited to see the naming rights of the Dome and what exactly they're going to do. I mean, we've seen them renovate the food. We've seen them renovate some of the digital pieces. We've seen them renovate the roof, the outside and the inside. We've seen them improve and bring in lighting. The acoustics have gotten better. So electronically, we've seen an upgrade. Audio-wise, we've seen an upgrade. We've seen an upgrade, like I said, on the exterior and the interior. The internet still needs work. The seating still needs work. So, to know that those are two of the three pieces that they seem to be working on. Definitely the seating, hopefully the infrastructure of the internet when they're talking about, when they had said that they're going to upgrade the Dome's digital infrastructure, saying the university will elevate the fan experience in the Dome by establishing the most modern connectivity offerings for fans and other users of the Dome. The media definitely needs that. I would put fans and media. But we definitely need it so that we can get the stories and the videos and the interviews out to the fans, right? You want to get it instantaneously. Well, as much as I want your phone to work, I want everything I'm doing to work too, so I can get it out to you so that you can read it on your phone as you're leaving and listen to it and watch it as well. So big ups to Syracuse on what they're doing historically here, and I hope that it all works out. I hope that it is cost effective. I hope that it is best for the absolute majority of people that come in by far, if not everybody. I hope Central New York benefits from it greatly and not just the university. And ultimately, I hope it provides a fantastic experience for not only myself, but for you and for everybody out there, including generations to come. I hope that it will continue to be one of the great moments of Syracuse and Central and Upstate New York. And I look forward to it. With that being said, we thank you for being a part of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You're watching on youtube.com, facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT. You're also watching on facebook.com /LiveNowDT. And of course, you can find us on live streaming radio throughout the world on mixlr.com /WakeUpCallDT and on wakeupcalldt.com. Once the shows go live, you can find us in the archives by heading to Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, MixLR, YouTube, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podbean, TuneIn, and more, including our recent awesome additions, which I'm so grateful to God for, Amazon Music and Audible adding us as well to their podcasting streaming services. So big thanks for them. And you can find us on any of these by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Of course, a big thanks to our Central and Upstate New York partners, Cafe Cabal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, PB&J's Lunchbox, Honda City of Liverpool, Avicoli's, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. You can order anywhere in the world by going to Ma and Pa's Popcorn.com, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Pizza Man, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, Mother's Cupboard, and the Millhouse Market. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is also your exclusive, proud multimedia marketing partner of Tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora weekly for content with your Lemoyne College Dolphins. You can find our Dolphins here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora throughout every single month, including on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, a.k.a. Dolphin Time. Wednesdays at 9 a.m., you have the opportunity to hang out with the Dolphins here with us on AD and DT every first and third Wednesday of each month with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora, and every second and fourth Wednesday with Dolphin Dive, featuring stories from student athletes, coaches, as well as administration, future Dolphins, and alumni here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and you will not find them like this anywhere else. You can get our content with the Dolphins by going to our Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com. You can also go to youtube.com /wakeupcalldt, and you can click on subscribe and find our Dolphin content there, and get more information, of course, as well by going to LemoyneDolphins.com. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is also the proud multimedia marketing partner of your Marywood University Pacers exclusively. Pacer Pride comes to you every single Friday on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. You can find the Pacers with us Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, pardon me, and you'll find the administration as well as student athletes and coaches joining us here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You can find all this content on the Marywood tab of wakeupcalldt.com. You can also find it by going to youtube.com /wakeupcalldt to find your Pacers there. Make sure you click subscribe and get more information on the Marywood Pacers at marywoodpacers.com. The Syracuse and the Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse Bobcats are also the exclusive multimedia marketing partners of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Proud to be here with your Bobcats every single month. The Bryan and Stratton Syracuse Bobcats here with us right up the road from Cafe Kubal's many locations, and we were at Cafe Kubal with an all-new edition of Bobcat Buzz. You can check that out on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, as well as by going to the BSC-SYR tab on wakeupcalldt.com, which stands for Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse. So make sure you check that out. All of our Bobcat Buzz episodes available to you on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, as well as the BSC-SYR tab on wakeupcalldt.com. Check back every single month for plenty coming to you from the Bryan and Stratton Bobcats. We've already gotten to do plenty of exclusives. We were there for both selection shows for men's and women's basketball. We have sat down and had an in-depth discussion on Nick Dimitrievski and Alex Grigorita on their national championship programs. We just had Alex Grigorita at Cafe Kubal on 401 South Salina Street in downtown Syracuse. We had Clay Gagan-Sherman at Mother's Cupboard to celebrate his hiring as the men's basketball head coach with the exclusive first interview on 3709 James Street at Mother's Cupboard in Syracuse. We had Danny Frisina on the heels of him saying he's stepping away from the men's basketball program. We had him at PB&J's Lunchbox on 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. And we have plenty more coming up with the Bobcats here in April and beyond. So make sure you check out the Bobcat Buzz exclusively on our YouTube channel on the BSC-SYR tab on wakeupcalldt.com. And, of course, you can get more information by going to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life, we appreciate you being here. Make sure you find us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. I want to thank Papa Joe, as always, for every Thursday being with us. I want to thank you, and I want to thank Cafe Kubal. Make sure you find them at any one of their many locations in central and upstate New York. And in the meantime, God bless, no stress, do your best. I'm going to go heat up my Cafe Kubal, and I'll talk with you soon. And we'll be at Cafe Kubal next Monday, back at 324 West Water Street. You can see him at 401 South Salina Street, 3501 James Street, and inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital. All of those locations in Syracuse, as well as 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, and at their drive-thru at the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse. For Cafe Kubal, for myself, Dan Tortora, and for this being Wake Up Call, we look forward to talking with you soon, seeing you soon, and having a great TGIF